Back in January of this year, after President Biden held office for 2 years, for the first time of his presidency, he finally visited the border, and obviously since then, nothing has really been done. And then back in May, before the end of Title 42, it was being reported that over 10,000 border crossings illegally were happening every single day. So obviously back in January, Biden obviously didn't care enough to really do anything about it. And also, to date, under the Biden administration, there has been over 3 times as many border crossings under him when compared to the former president and Donald Trump. Obviously, this is a terrible situation, and according to the American First Policy Institute, every illegal alien who makes it across the southern border, whether crossing the desert or river unlawfully, they do pay a different price. So, for example, the cartels reportedly charge Mexican nationals around $8,600, while migrants from the Northern Triangle countries of El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala are on the hook for $11,500. Those from Brazil and Ecuador are charged $15,000, and Europeans at $6,400, and the Chinese around $75,000. So if you're coming from China, you're paying the biggest price there. But obviously, no one likes these policies, and RFK Jr., who is running against Joe Biden, even though they're doing everything in their power to make sure that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. almost has no chance of beating Biden in the Democratic primaries, he recently called Biden out on his policies and just absolutely ripped into them. So let's go ahead and watch.
I watched over 2 hours between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. at a gap in the wall in Yuma. 300 people come across the border, and the cartels, each 55 per bus load, buses owned by the cartels. They each knew exactly what would happen to them because the drug cartels are advertising all over the world on TikTok and YouTube and saying, here's what you do, give us $15,000, we will get you into the United States, and they tell them each step along the way what to do. It's extraordinary. I expected that I'd see a lot of people from Latin America and Central America who are fleeing oppressive regimes or drug wars. I didn't. I saw only 2 families that night, one from Colombia and one from Peru, and they had legitimate asylum claims. None of the other people did. The first 120 were from West Africa, young men, military age. The second 120 were from Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Tibet, Nepal, China, India. None of them said they had an asylum claim. They all said they were here to get jobs and make money. As soon as they cross the Border Patrol processes them, and if they're not criminals, and they are brought to the Yuma airport, they're given an airplane ticket at our expense if they can't afford for it, to any destination they want in the United States. 7 million have come across in 3 years, and our legal immigration during that period was 3.1 million. The Mexican drug cartels are running U.S. immigration policy. 9 Border Patrol agents have committed suicide over the last year because they're not allowed to do their jobs. Those immigrants I interviewed them. They had been extorted, they had been exploited, they had been robbed, they had been one raped, and beaten. A Peruvian family had their entire life savings. I went to a rape center in Yuma that just treats people who were raped by the cartel, children and women. It is horrific. What's happening there is like nothing I've ever seen. The immigrants come across, they're given a court date with an asylum judge 7 years in the future. Wow. And then they're allowed to stay here for 7 years, but they have no legal status here. So what happens? They're exploited by unscrupulous employees who give them $6 or $7 an hour. At construction firms in New York, there's 110,000 landed in New York. They're crushing the social services in New York. Mayor Adams is now, who welcomed them at first and declared New York a silent city, now says New York is going to be destroyed. They're putting them in encampments on Randall's Island on the playing fields. The children in New York City were locked for 2.5 years so they couldn't play sports. Many of those kids were on scholarship trajectories. They weren't allowed to play their sports. Now they're finally out from COVID, and they can't play their sports because there's immigrants encamped on their fields. I worked with Cesar Chavez for the last 20 years of his life. I worked mainly on pesticide issues. father's closest political ally. Because of my work with him, when he died, his family honored me by asking me to be a pallbearer in his funeral. He had two great concerns during the last 20 years of his life. One of those concerns was pesticides, which dramatically and disproportionately impact Hispanic farm workers. The other concern was closing the border, because he saw that that influx of illegal immigrants were destroying his leverage to get good wages for his workers. And what you're seeing now in New York is the immigrants get a hold of Social Security cards, which is all you need to get a job. It's illegal to hire them. But they get a Social Security card, which is easy to fabricate, there's no picture on it. And they can go to any job site, and so the jobs that will hire them, the unscrupulous employers, are now they go bid that site for a lower price than the union workers, and the union workers are being exploited. So here's what I'm going to do. Number one, first of all, I spent 3 days talking to Border Patrol, local law enforcement, people on both sides of the hospital, and everybody. Every single person I talked to said this can be shut down overnight. The most difficult thing we need to do is we need to hire huge numbers of asylum judges to adjudicate at the border before people come in. And if they do not, if they're not covered with asylum, they shouldn't be allowed in. But what I'm going to do is something even more important. I'm going to immediately order and waive the payment for passport cards. So if you go, there's 33,000 post offices in this country. There's a lot of poor people in this country who do not have federal ID. They don't have picture ID, and they don't have access to it because the $65 for the passport card, they just can't afford it. And they don't have a driver's license. They live in a city. They don't have a car. They're elderly. They don't have a car. Those people are now second-class citizens. They can't get a bank account. They can't get on a plane. They can't get to a hotel. They can't see their kids at school. I'm going to make it so every American can immediately get a federal picture ID. This will do two things. One, it will clear up a lot of the anxieties on both sides about the integrity of our voting system. Because now you can I'm supported by Andrew Young, by Al Sharpton, by the Civil Rights League, who say, yeah, once we give everybody a photo ID, then we're okay with people demanding ID before you vote. And so the anxieties on both sides of those issues through a common sense solution can be eliminated. The other thing it will do is it will shut down the border overnight. Because now the employer has no excuse but to say, I will check their federal ID. And if he doesn't do it, he goes to jail. And as soon as that happens, not one person's going to come across that border. Because they know they're not going to get a job in the United States of America. That's why they're coming here. I talk to them. That's why I'm going to do that. The other question you asked about fentanyl, with those guys, what DeSantis is saying, and with all due respect, Governor DeSantis, but it's just not true. Making war in Mexico, opening another war, is insanity. We need to have good relationships with the Mexican government. But, there's no way in the world, your point was perfect. You cannot block the fentanyl from coming into this country. Fentanyl is so minuscule, it's 1/200th the size of the opium molecule. And so you could load in one briefcase enough fentanyl to kill every citizen of Los Angeles. There is no way to keep that out of this country. What we need to do is another approach, which is not the drug war, but we need to start healing. And I have a proposal to do healing centers and detox centers all over this country too. We need to and use that money to build rehabs in rural areas all over this country. With the only industry today is prisons, but we're going to start healing farms where people come, grow organic crops, and kids can get their lives back and become part of a community and understand how to function in a community again.